Hello and welcome to the evolution of artificial intelligence. Today we're going to be learning about the history of AI, what is current in AI, and what is the future of AI. What do you think of when you hear artificial intelligence? Do you think of Alexa? Do you think of Tesla? Do you think of ChatGPT? Did you actually know it's any kind of computer system that has the capability to perform complex tasks similarly to humans? Think about Alexa, for example. You ask her a question, you ask her to set a timer or whatnot, and she responds back as if she was a human. Now, when do you think this actually all originated? The 70s, the 80s, maybe even the big tech boom of the 90s? How about in the 1950s? Now, in the 1950s, computers did not exist. They did have computing machines back in this time frame, and it was mathematician and scientist Alan Turing who genuinely believed that these computing machines could actually learn language and behave similarly to humans. Now, because of the lack of development in this technology, he was able to come up with a test known as the Turing test. And the specific test actually tests if a machine can learn language and actually perform what is asked of it. So let's think about Siri, for example, how she has the ability to recognize your voice and then follow a command based off of the data that's not only within the phone, but off of your voice commands. Now, who really brought this up to light was considered the father of AI, who was the Dartmouth professor, John McCarthy. Now, what happened is John McCarthy held a large conference over the summer of 1956, and himself and the researchers kept, investigating this Turing test and actually came up with the term artificial intelligence. Now, if you have seen the original 1971 version of Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory, you might recall a scientist asking the computer, where are the three remaining golden tickets? Now, normally we know machines don't have ethics. However, this one did and admitted it would be cheating and it refused to actually say where the three tickets are. Now, highlighted in this link, there is a link to that scene if you have not seen it. Now, what that was representing is the first chatbot ever, Eliza. Now, Eliza was actually created to represent talk therapy by MIT professor Joseph Weizenbaum. Now, down on the bottom right-hand corner, you have what's Shaky the robot. He was created through Stanford in 1972, and the goal was to see if he could operate independently of human control, similarly to like Johnny Five in the movie Short Circuit. Now, in the 1980s, this was actually considered the AI winter, meaning that there was a major lack of artificial intelligence development. However, due to the curiosity in the 80s, the American Association of Artificial Intelligence was created to allow for this to still continue despite the drought. And then in 1986, German computer scientist Ernst Dickmann actually created the first self-driving car that is similar to what we understand how the Tesla works. It was in a Mercedes-Benz bus. Now, in the 90s, this is where we actually start to see what we know. If you were around during that time frame, you saw a lot of ads for IBM, a lot of ads for Microsoft, a lot of ads for the beginning of Apple. Now, IBM during the 90s was one of the biggest innovators, and one of the big things they're known for is the artificial intelligent Deep Blue machine. Now, this machine actually was programmed to play chess and happened to beat the world time chess champion Gary Kasparov in 96, on top of having the ability to compute over 200 moves in less than a second. Now, down in the bottom right-hand corner, you have this creepy Furby-looking thing known as Kismet. Now, Kismet was created by Dr. Cynthia Brazel in 1997, also of MIT, and the goal was it for this robot to actually identify human emotions. Now, in the millennium, a lot of this is stuff we are accustomed to or have seen. In 2004, for those who are into outer space, thanks to NASA's rovers, we are actually able to explore Mars if it's inhabitable, can life grow there? We are all very familiar with Siri and Alexa. Then, for the Jeopardy fans, some of you might recall in 2011, IBM's Watson actually airing on the show and defeating two all time champions, Ken Jennings and Brad Ritter. Some of you, if you're into late night TV, you might remember in 2016 this very human-esque robot, Sophia, and she was made in the intentions to actually have a human conversation, and she was quite successful about it. She actually came out of Hong Kong, so it was not an American company like IBM. Now, welcome to your current destination. So none of these things could be happening currently today without recognizing computer scientist Geoffrey Hinton. He actually came up with what is known as neuronal networks. And basically what a neuronal network is how your AI systems actually can learn all this amount of data and actually make predictions like the brain, just like how we learn. So it's like, okay, well, what is water? Is it wet? Is it dry? That kind of information can actually get processed by these computers and then executed. Now, how we see that today is through all these open AI concepts. You see your chat GBT where you ask it, hey, can you solve this equation? And it gives you a whole rundown of how to solve this equation. Or Dolly, if you haven't tried this one's actually quite fun. You actually can tell it, hey, I need a picture of a frog smoking a cigarette on top of a mountain within a canoe. It will actually create an image for you, and then you can, save it and relay it for future use. Now, types that we tend to use, as you see the imaging here, you're seeing Alexa, you're seeing Tesla, you're even seeing a little blurb with Netflix. Now, what we actually use is called narrow AI or also weak AI. It's pretty much an umbrella term for what we are aware of, what we're using nowadays. So when it comes to this, it is technology that can be trained to know information faster than the human mind. Now, some of you might argue that a little bit with your Alexa, but if you work with the Tesla, for example, if you actually drive one of these or know someone who does, these cars are actually programmed based off of, not only having to drive, but having to look for, obstacles in a road, left, right, even weather, and how to actually manage the terrain. Now, why I say this is an umbrella term is there's actually a subcategory known as functional AI, and these ones actually work on the data it's stored in originally. So basically, I'm looking at this Netflix picture and how, say you watch Squid Games. Well, next time you go into your Netflix, it literally will say, because you watch Squid Games, you see these lists of ideas. That's that functional AI. It will take every little bit of information that you put in and it will generate either things you would like, dislike, so on and so forth. Now, how does this narrow AI learn? You are seeing a bunch of images of mathematics, and sadly, yes, this is how it actually learns. Don't worry, we don't have to go that route, but it always starts with linear algebra. Now, reason why it starts with linear algebra is it actually will take those answers and make what looks like a phylogenetic tree, if you're familiar with biology and genetics, and these are known as decision trees. Now, these decision trees are like yes, no, green, blue, Netflix, Hulu, and it gets more practical, but also more complicated as it gets a bigger tree. Now, what also works with these trees is again statistics and calc. So all that put together will actually lead to making patterns and functions that AI will actually learn to make what we know are algorithms. Now, these algorithms are literally just a bunch of codes to help function the AI so it actually can learn and do what it needs to do to provide essentially for us humans. Now, these algorithms, because we hear about them a lot in our social media, are actually to help AI learn from the internet, from language, from sensors, from any little surveys we take, along with anything we punch in. Some of you probably noticed when you use Google, all of a sudden the first thing that comes up in your search bar is AI related. That is partially due to what we have entered over the decades, along with what it has learned from surfing the internet itself. Now, what is next for AI? Basically, our best way of looking at it is the movies. They're onto some truths, but these are all in theory. This has literally been created, but still in a high experimental notation right now, especially due to ethics. So the first ones we're looking at is general AI and super AI. Again, we're talking about umbrella terms. Now, this is human-like to being superior to humans in learning informational with emotional understanding. So that's the next era that we're looking at here to possibly see with AI. Now, again, with the umbrella term, you're looking at theory of mind AI, which are robots that understand emotions. And if you were a fan of Baymax, you definitely noticed your healthcare companion was able to understand emotions by the end of the movie. Now, self-aware AI These are robots that resemble humans. If you are a fan of The Wild Robot, you notice Rose started off as your basic robot. But then by the end, she not only recognized emotions in herself, she recognized emotions in the animals that she surrounded herself with, and then she became a prime example of a mother. So she actually developed that one. And if you ever saw the movie Ex Machina, Ava, with not just her human-esque physical features, she literally adapted everything that a human could resemble to the point where she could be ill-recognizable to the naked eye. So that is what the future of AI could entail. I hope you enjoyed the presentation, and I hope this allows you to explore what we're now going to possibly have for a future of artificial intelligence.